Lauren
I'm
explains
not going
it
to talk
all.
about basketball. Nothing's happened with our team in the last 6 hours. We're going to start the same way tonight. Any basketball questions don't matter. Since we left shoot-around, 14 children were killed 400 miles from here, and a teacher. And in the last 10 days, we've had elderly black people killed in a supermarket in Buffalo. We've had Asian churchgoers killed in Southern California. And now we have children murdered at school. When are we going to do something? I'm tired. I'm so tired of getting up here and offering condolences to the devastated families that are out there. I'm so tired of the, I'm sorry. I'm tired of the
Lauren
moments of
explains
silence.
it all.
So for those of you who don't know, that was Steve Kerr, the Golden State Warriors head coach, in his opinion on the Texas shooting at Robb Elementary. For some of you who do know, most of you that found out in other streams of news, it was 19 children and 2 teachers that were killed on Tuesday by an 18-year-old who just opened fire, and there is unclear motive of the situation as of right now.
That shit is just sick, man. It's just sick all the way around, man. My prayers and condolences goes out to those beautiful babies and all their parents and all the people they left behind. It's just a very sad day in America. But like Steve Kerr said, and he alluded to, this shit keeps on happening. Like, where do we go from here? This shit seems to never stop. It keeps getting worse and worse.
And he's right. I mean, this isn't the first time that we've seen this. A lot of people are making references to the Sandy Hook Elementary shooting in Connecticut. There was also one in El Paso, and there's another one that just happened recently in New York. What was it, Buffalo, New York, with in the supermarket, I believe there was a shooting.
Yeah, we just talked about it last podcast.
I guess the question is just like, we always say what's going to kill the human race. Well, honestly, the human race is going to kill the human race, because this just doesn't make any sense. There's no motive. There's no clear, distinct reason as to why these things are happening. At this point, are we just bored with our time that we're just killing people?
It just goes into a deeper, darker conversation and gun laws and the ongoing fight against gun laws and who should be able to purchase a weapon, who shouldn't be able to purchase a weapon. It's a lot. No 18-year-old should have that access to a weapon, but especially once you hear what that weapon actually did to the kids, they couldn't even necessarily identify the kids because that's how bad the wounds were, the fatal shots were to these children. You know what I'm trying to say? They literally had to take parents' DNA to match up kids to parents, and that's fucking sick. It's sick all the way across the board.
It's atrocious. It's a tragedy. It's very hurtful. I was talking to some of my family members about it, and even they were in agreement saying, how is it that I can literally go to Texas and buy a gun at 18, but I have to wait till I'm 21 to buy a bottle of alcohol? Which one is deadlier? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And recently, I think they switched the tobacco laws from 18 to 21 too. So it's not that we can't switch the laws. It's just a matter of why don't we, or what is at stake for some of these politicians that they are in refusal to do something about this. Not the first time, not the second time, not the third time, not the fourth time. Probably like 5th, 6th, 7th, almost 10th time we see these mass shootings. Specifically in Texas, Gregory Abbott is the Republican Party representative, the governor of Texas, and his gun laws are very loose. So I guess for a refresher, we have to remember that the states are sovereign, so that they have their own state government. So not all gun laws are the same across the states, even though we're the United States. So in one area, while in Florida, you have to have a permit, a gun license to carry a gun. That is not the case in Texas. It is open carry. You can literally walk with your guns. You don't have to conceal it. It can be open and obvious to everybody in the building. And that's just the laws in Texas. Now, we can also see how that can play out on the negative side too, where you have school shootings like this. So, I mean, it's almost to the point where it's just like, where do we find a happy medium? Because a lot of people may fight for the other side, saying, oh, it's for my own protection at this point. But when we get to a point where it's just like, you're not even using the gun for your own protection, you're just killing innocent kids. Like, what could have fourth graders done so bad to deserve to that kind of end of life? I just don't understand.
Yeah, it also goes down to mental health and what's mental health and what's not. What's the difference between somebody who's mentally insane and somebody who's just dumb as fuck and who does stupid things? I guess that's like a line that we can't really pick and choose or, deem this person has mental health versus this person is just dumb as hell.
Yeah, and I mean, it's sketchy. I know in Florida they do a background check before they give you a gun license.
But they don't do a mental health check.
Well, yeah, and I was going to say that. You have a good point with that, because actually before he reached the school, the shooter of the Robb Elementary shot his grandmother, left his grandmother in the house wounded, took her truck, was speeding down, I think like a highway, crashed the truck about a half mile from the elementary school, and then got onto campus, and basically he locked himself into one of the classrooms, shot everybody in the classroom. He shot all the school resource officers. There was 2 deputies that reported as well, shot them as well. And it wasn't until a border patrol unit came in and shot him dead that things started to fizzle out, or kind of, the killing stopped. But it's still just like, what in the fuck?
It just goes. It seems like everybody sees everything. It's like literally with the age of social media, you can't get away with anything. And nobody saw this man crash his truck, hop the gate. Nobody saw nothing.
Well,
Nobody heard the gunshots at grandma's crib and nothing like that.
They did say that somebody called the police, but by the time the police caught up to where he was at, because he was moving, you know what I'm saying? Unfortunately, it was just too late. And I mean, we do have to look from a mental health aspect. Like, you really got to wonder what's going on through somebody's mental mind to, one, not only kill their grandmother, leave the grandmother wounded in the house, turn around, take the truck, and go kill innocent people that had no recourse, no connection, nothing to your life. Like, you really got to look at the kind of children that we are producing as adults, because this kid is 18. I think it was just recently his birthday when he bought these 2 guns. And even at 18, an 18-year-old male, their mind is not fully developed. And I'm not using that as an excuse, but they're very influential. They're very impressionable. So what kind of children are we really producing as a nation is what we really need to look at. And what is causing this I guess, way of thinking? Like, is it the video games that they're watching? Because I know there was a claim with Call of Duty. Is it, the fact that they feel like they're being ignored or something, and he wanted to, I don't know, make himself feel known? Like, I don't understand it. And so we kind of have to look at other factors, like what was going on in this man's life, because they can't find any motive for this either.
Yeah, it's just so much that hasn't came out yet that it's probably going to come out in upcoming days, and more facts we're going to find out about this individual who killed. What's his name, man? I'm gonna stop calling individual. What is his name?
I had it written down.
It's just
18-year-old Salvador Ramos. That's his name, Salvador Ramos.
Salvador Ramos, who took the innocent lives of 19 children, and as well as 2 adults on campus, on the elementary school campus. Like, what is the world coming to? Like, it's only so much we all can take, but things like this keep happening over and over again. And this, yes, it does. It's almost to the point, like, it fucks with your own mental health. It has you thinking, 3-4 times. I have kids who are in school, and now I'm already have anxiety and paranoia when they go to school. But now, like, it just seems it keeps getting closer and closer to home. It's just a lot.
And it's interesting you say that, because I think in a way, and I'm not trying to negate away from the issue at all, but sometimes some races may say they don't understand why Black people live in fear. And they say, well, if one Black person can get pulled over by the cops and end up dead for speeding, a lot of people understand, well, that has nothing to do with you. How does that affect you? That it happened to them. That means it can happen to me. And so that's the kind of mental mental issue that is being dealt with here. If this can happen to innocent kids, this can happen to my innocent kids. If this can happen to innocent people in a grocery store, this can happen to myself when I go to a grocery store, even the movie shooting. It's just like, where can you even go at this point without having to live in fear? And furthermore, I mean, this is just something that I feel like in a sense, like, I can't go anywhere. Like, you go to the grocery store, you go to the movie theater, you go to school, you go to libraries. Like, you don't know when and where it might really just be your last day because somebody just got a bug up their ass and says, I don't like it, I'm mad at this and that. And now that's not, it's irreversible damage. It's not something that you scratch somebody and they heal from it. This is a life that has been lost.
Yeah.
Or multiple lives that have been lost, to be honest.
This is really heavy stuff for me. I'm not gonna lie. Like, as somebody, who, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's just this is very, very heavy on my heart. And once again, my prayers and thoughts goes to the families impacted, and not even the families who just lost loved ones, but also the students who have to burden this survivor's remorse from now until their demise. So they got to carry this as a young kid throughout their whole life. Like, even in this the shooting in Miami, closer to home, on the high school, the little girl, I want to get her name right. If you can look it up right quick, but the girl who stood on everything she said, she ended up committing suicide because she had survivor's remorse. Like, it was so damaging to her, and to her mental health.
Yeah, and I mean, furthermore, from a survivor's remorse, I mean, these kids are young. I mean, you're talking about an elementary school, so not only was that classroom affected, but you're also talking about the kindergartners who were shaken up. You're also talking about the teachers, the principal, the staff that were there. All of these people are going to live the rest of their lives with some form of traumatic PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. I don't know if I was in this situation and I was a teacher, for the rest of my life, I may be scared to go to work. For the rest of my life as a kid, Mommy, I don't want to go to school. I'm scared. I don't know if I'm going to make it home. You know what I'm saying? How do you deal with that as a parent? I mean, yes, you're blessed and you're thankful that your child made out alive, but it's like, my kid doesn't even want to go to school anymore because they're saying I might die. Like, that's not something that is easy to deal with. And I wouldn't even know what to say as a parent. Like, what do you even say at that point?
Yeah, it's tough. And Sydney Alayu, a 19-year-old graduate of Douglas High School, she committed suicide, and it was another one too. Let me not mess up her name.
But I mean, at the end of the day, it's just like the coach said, where does it stop? When is something going to be done? I understand we could try and replicate what other countries have done, but it is a very deep-seated issue, because I think a good portion of our country was built on our constitutional rights to bear arms, freedom of speech, and those sort of things. So in order for us to backtrack at this point and almost fix it, it's almost like, how are we going to do this? That's almost like trying to make alcohol illegal again.
Yeah.
How are we going to do this? You know what I'm saying? I'm in 110% agreement that something needs to be done for sure. You can put a permit on the gun the accessibility to guns in Texas and across the board. I think it should that should already be in place as a federal law. And to my understanding, the states are sovereign until you are affecting the public across state borders. So once you're crossing state borders, you're now stepping into federal jurisdiction. I think the federal government needs to step in and say, hey, this is not just a one state thing. Yes, most of it are in Texas, but we're witnessing Texas, Florida, Connecticut, in completely different regions. So New York included. So at this point, it needs to be a federal government decision that there needs to be something done about these gun laws. Now, I don't know if we can necessarily take away and work retroactively for people that already have guns, but we can definitely make it more difficult for those who want guns for no good use to get them. Background checks, permits, doing certain trainings and that kind of thing, understanding the deadliness of the machine that you're handling. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But something definitely needs to be done.
Yeah. as somebody who is a proud gun owner and is licensed up through my occupation and just life, it's just, even I'm on the side of saying, yeah, we have to do more. These legislations and these laws have to be changed in order to protect the rest of the country, in order to protect certain people from themselves, you know?
Yeah,
So,
and I mean, honestly, I think there was a good point that was raised a couple years ago, um, on another mass shooting, to be honest with you. And it was saying that, if you're using a gun for your own protection, if somebody's invading your property or threatening you, okay, a handgun makes sense. But there's no reason for someone to really have, what is it, an assault rifle that can shoot multiple shots at once. Where it's just like, you shoot someone once, chances are they're gonna go down. You know what I'm saying? But you don't need to shoot off 15 fires to kill one person. You know what I'm saying? So there's really no reason for the general public to have access to those guns. Now, when you're talking like military personnel and fighting wars, that's a different story. But there's really no reason for the general public to have access to these kind of guns. Even if you want to say hunting deer, you shoot them once, they're dead. You know what I'm saying? You shoot someone once, they're going down. And that's where the training comes in, where you're not wasting your bullets either. In order to access this gun, you have to have a certain level. You should have to have a certain level of training to aim the gun right and that kind of thing. So you're not shooting innocent people trying to protect yourself. But I think there definitely needs to be a restriction on the public, where it's like, look, if you're not fighting a war, literally, there's no reason for you to have an assault rifle.
I need to know how this 18-year-old kid got this weapon in his hands.
He bought it.
He bought it himself.
I know he got it. He got it recently after his birthday, but I think he could buy it because in Texas they have different gun laws where you can literally just buy a gun. You don't need a permit. It's open carry.
Yeah.
Open carry
Wow.
meaning you can go. It's almost like buying food at Walmart. You can go buy a gun in Texas. My dad was telling me when he visited Texas at some point, you also got to look what they're promoting. The billboards in Texas are how to finance a gun. And my dad's like, why do you need to finance a gun? I mean, it's one thing if you're financing a house, but financing a gun, that's what you're promoting?
Well, as somebody who is frequent in Texas a couple times, it is, I don't want to call it the Wild Wild West, but it is different out there. It's different culture out there. Yes, everybody is strapped up, ready, locked and loaded in Texas. From my experiences.
I mean, I've been to Texas too, and I mean, I went to the more modern cities, San Antonio, those kind of things, where you have more. What's the word I'm looking for?
Go San Antonio, get down. Don't get
but
fooled.
it's not like just everybody shooting everybody. You know what I'm saying? There's definitely more city-like feel to San Antonio.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I will say is that I come back to my same statement where it's like, there's nothing wrong with different cultures. New York has its own culture. California has its own culture. Florida has its own culture. Wisconsin has its own culture. You know what I'm saying? And that's where the states, in their own government, state, local governments should control that, depending on the culture. Now, when you're dealing with an issue like this, where it's turning into a federal issue affecting other states, because for all we know, because the Sandy Hook Elementary shooting didn't necessarily get taken care of, the next kid in Texas was like, oh, okay, I'll get away with it. You might be influencing the next shooting. That kind of thing needs to be a federal issue where it's like, okay, this needs to be a law across the board. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know, man. We might need to take a little breather right quick. My anxiety is very high right now. You think so?
Yeah.
All right.
For sure.
We are back at the Lauren Explains It All podcast. Our hearts are still very heavy. Lauren wanted to continue to talk about the topic, but broaden it up. What were you saying?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to open up the topic a little bit and, still keep into consideration the lives that were lost, but also look at the culture and politics of the state of Texas. And as much of us know that it is a very Republican state, they believe heavily in their views, which is okay. But as I mentioned multiple times before, when you're affecting the national level of the public, you're going to have an issue. So Texas is also one of the states that was very advocate for the riots at the White House when Trump was in my terms, inciting a crowd. How he gets away with it, I don't know. But when others tend to do it, it's illegal. But in other terms, he went on his Twitter, put on his views and those kind of things, and a lot of people from Texas were the ones who were riding the White House. Now, it's not just from Texas, but a good heavy portion of that riot was Texans. Furthermore, they are also the ones who had the push for the overturn of the Roe v. Wade and the abortion laws. And now we also have this open carry issue at hand. And I think we really need to assess Texas. I don't have any discrimination or anything against Texas. I'm clearly looking at the facts at hand. Texas is a very large state. I almost want to say if it's not the largest, at least the second largest. So their influence is heavy. And so I remember at one point there was talk about in politics about Texas becoming its own separate country separated from the U.S. But it kind of just fizzled out. So how do we address this? How do we deal with this? How do we make things better for our future? It is very hard to say because at the end of the day, we are the United States and they are part of our country of the United States. And they do probably do a lot for our economy. They do a lot for the entire U.S. economy, not just their own economy in other states that they import and export to. But we really need to find a way to put some ramifications, some type of laws in place on not just Texas, but find a happy medium between these Republicans and Democrats. So I'm not generalizing Texans at all, but I am just stating facts at hand that, there is a lot of heavy influence going on in Texas for the Republican Party. And that being said, we have to look what is really the agenda of the Republicans. What is really the agenda that they're trying to push through? And so I come back to the U.S. being built off of quote unquote democracy. But for some reason, it's very hard for certain individuals to vote. And laws were literally put in place for these individuals not to vote.
Let's call it what it is, man. Abbott spent a lot of his term in office, making it easier to sell more guns to more people with less restrictions in Texas. Mm-hmm. So therefore, the blood is in his hands. The blood is in all our hands technically, but definitely for that. And I'm going to play this clip right quick that what happened when the Texas Democratic candidate, Beto O'Rourke, had a heated confrontation in Texas. Hold on one second. I'll play it.
Excuse me.
Sit down.
You're out of line and an embarrassment.
Sit down and don't play this stuff.
The next shooting is right now, and you are doing nothing.
No, you need to get his out of here. This isn't the place to talk this over.
This is totally predictable when you...
Sir, you're out of line. Sir, you are out of line. Sir, you are out of line. Please leave this auditorium. I can't believe you're a sick son of a bitch that would come to a deal like this to make a political issue.
So, being said, I mean, Governor Abbott, my personal opinion, I think you're the one that's out of line. I think you are putting politics, greed, and money over lives, which should never be the case. And I honestly think you need to step down. You need to just remove yourself from office, whatever it may be, because clearly from that standpoint, it's just like, I understand you have a lot on your plate as a governor. That's not an easy job. But the man is right. This is not the first shooting. This is not the second shooting. This is not the third shooting. And if anything, the gun laws in Texas have loosened up over time. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not like you're reacting in a sensible way. And I don't understand. Like, what is your agenda? Is it more about your personal gain and benefit, or is it really about the public, how politics should be? I understand. I'm not saying all Republicans are bad. That's not what I'm saying, because bottom line, Republicans just believe in less government influence versus Democrat believe in more government influence. However, I will say that of recently, it does seem that the Republican Party has put their own agendas to try and defer away government influence so much that we are to the point where we're losing innocent lives and nothing is being done. And that's never okay on any level, any spectrum that you can explain to me. There's no excuse you can make to me to justify your actions right now. So I guess the question moving forward is, how can we collectively come together to make a difference? And I think, the bottom line answer is we have to get out and vote. We have to have our voices heard. And if that doesn't work, we can petition. We can we can literally learn their game and use their game against them. So what I would say is that while Trump had his voters go to the White House and protest against their views, we do the exact same. We learn their trade and we do the exact same and say, look, this is not okay. We got innocent lives dying and nothing is being done. Now when it's at the White House front door, it's going to be a federal issue. They're going to you force people to act at this point, because I think we've been dismissed long enough. We've been ignored long enough that it's getting to the point where it's just like, what more do you expect us to do? It's not, we're literally sending our kids to school, which is required by federal law, and they're being killed. So now it's just, what more do you want from us, essentially?
I think I get what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, but a lot of that has to be done at the local levels. The local levels, knowing in your community who's running for what office and assessing the background.
Yes. And
finding out if those people are right to run. Do they have your best interests at heart? Like, I'm never gonna forget, it was at my mom's church, a very, very old school church, black church, and they used to have they still do right now. They actually have people who running for council. They always come to church and get their little testament words. And every time, like, the preacher, the pastor, he OG, he asks them straight up, but what are you gonna do for our community? It's fine and dandy what you want to do for the broader, but what about our community? And that's what we have to start asking these people when we go out there and vote in our local
city councils,
exactly,
state governments. And Maul is definitely right. We can raise things to a federal issue, but at the end of the day, if we don't start in our own communities, we're only putting a Band-Aid over a gunshot. You know what I'm saying? A Band-Aid is not going to do much in this kind of issue, unfortunately. We can petition against it, but he's right. We need to take the time to educate ourselves on the people that we are electing into power, all the way down to city council, state governments, local governments, then building into your court system. Like, who are the judges really in your circuit courts? I'm not even talking about your Supreme Court yet. Do you really know the line of thinking and those kind of things in your circuit courts, your judicial courts? You know what I'm saying? Because those people are the same ones that move up into these high positions of power. At the end of the day, almost every president that we've had at some point started out as a lawyer and attorney. So they built their way up through the political system. So we really need to check and do our research on these people from the start, so we can really see what kind of person are we putting into power here. Is this someone who's really going to look out for the public or push their own political agenda? And I mean, that just comes back in, collectively coming together and actually voting and doing our research. There are certain ways that we can do our own education, and it's as simple as just Googling who we're voting for. You know what I'm saying? 9 times out of 10 people have access to a smartphone, and it's just as simple as putting in their name and saying, what are this guy's views? What are his agendas? What was he like? Where did he come from? You know what I'm saying? What kind of lifestyle did he live before the politics came into the issue? And that can kind of give you a gist of who we're really putting into power. Yeah,
and to me, in layman's terms, what I identify with, what I subscribe to, is like, if you want to enter the game and change the game, you got to know the game. Mm-hmm. You cannot just enter the game then you're going to change it. You got to know the rules that they play by And once you know those rules, you get in there, then you start making your changes. But in order to play the game, you have to know the game. You know, you want to make real changes, know the game that you're in.
Yeah, and I think he hits the nail on the head at the end of the day. We got to get out and vote, even if it does mean we got to sit in line and wait to vote. But if that was your child that was on the line that lost their lives for going to school, do you think waiting in line for a couple of hours was worth, is a good trade-off for your child's life? Because all it takes is your vote, your neighbor's vote, neighbor's vote, and before you know it, you got 510,000 people, voting and putting a voice in. One person can really make a difference in a community, and that's what literally politicians, city councilmen, and that's what they are. They are that one person that make a difference. Now, do they make a difference in their favor or your favor? That's the question up at hand. But you getting to one person to vote, saying, "Hey, you know what? If you can't make it there off your own transportation, I'll drive you, just so you can vote." You know what I'm saying? Reach out to your community, reach out to your neighbors, get everybody. If y'all got a carpool, get a bus together or something. Run out a bus and say, "Hey, let's make it fun. We'll all get a bus, get some food, chill, and we'll make it like a community event to go vote." Because I think that is a much better way and more effective way than just complaining about it and seeing the same cycle happen over and over again. And I think that is a very simple trade-off for us to save these children's lives. I mean, like I said, at what point does it stop? And if they're not going to do anything about it, and we got to take matters into our own hands. And at the end of the day, the way our Constitution was built, the way our government is built, is that we are a democracy. Now, yes, we have the Electoral College, which there was talk about getting rid of the Electoral College after the Trump and Hillary election, because if we remember, Hillary Clinton actually got the popular vote, but Trump was strategic enough to get the Electoral College vote. And there was a lot of talk about what is the point of having the public vote if it comes down to Electoral College. And it was a wide range. I mean, it was almost like 5-10 million people, just like their votes were in that much different range, where it's just like, how the hell does someone win by 10 million votes and still the other person is put into power? And so it is up to us, the power, and when they say the power is in the people, it really isn't the people. When we come together collectively and say, this we don't like, this we need to fix, they have nothing they can do, because there's powers in numbers. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. We come together and we really band together and say there's powers in numbers. Y'all's companies, all these, I don't want to say Republicans, but a lot of these politicians who have their own companies or their own side of businesses, they don't run without us. Yeah. Remember the power that we have too. At the end of the day, where it's not just all hope is lost. We have power. We just have to band together and come together and push our own agendas further, just like they have. So,
and to summarize your thought, before you go to any kind of war, you gotta have your money right. So that's why I appreciate you, because you always come on this platform and you try to get free game and what we could do as a community to increase our chances in being wealthy and making the right move, so we can have those seats at the table. Yeah. So we can be educated enough or make sure we have our money right to go to war, because that's what you need to fight these type of battles. You need money, you need power, you need respect.
It's very interesting Ma brings that up, and he's 110% correct, because if we look back in history, when we were looking at the Civil War and Black people actually got the right to vote, you will not believe how, to what extent some people went to deter Black people from voting. I was actually talking to my father and some other political people in the community, and I said, it's just crazy. Why don't we just come up? We're in the 21st century. Why don't we just have an app? You put in your Face ID, your social security number, make it secure, and we vote through our phones. And they kind of looked at me and said, there's a reason for that. And I'm just like, what do you mean? And they told us they don't want to give everybody the access to vote. Why? Because they know it wouldn't go in their favor. They purposely put the voting precincts in white neighborhoods, far away from the Black neighborhoods, because they know 9 out of 10 Black people have to work jobs that don't get off till 6. A lot of corporate companies actually give the day off for their employees to go work. But the ones who are working in your Walmarts, your UPS, your Amazons, they don't get the day off.
She meant vote. I know what you meant.
Oh yeah, vote. Yeah, to get they get the day off to go vote. But the ones working in corporate America, who, let's be real, who corporate America is a predominantly white scene, they get the day off to go vote. So I think we need to recognize what is also happening in our own neighborhoods too. I think Trump actually made it a law that you couldn't even mail in your voting ballot. Why is that? Because they didn't want certain votes to count. They didn't want certain votes to be made into to count. So we need to recognize what's going on here. How do you combat against that? You get your own community together. You get your own stuff together, and you guys say, look, this isn't right. We got to do something. Our voices need to be heard too.
Yeah. Once again, like we started the episode, we're going to end the episode. We send our prayers, thoughts to the whole Texas, to Robb Elementary, to all the students and the teachers who lost their lives and their families. We had so much great things to talk about on this episode, but we just felt it was only right to give this attention to all the
all the families and the lives that were lost. And I'm not just talking about the lives that were lost as well. I'm also talking about the other lives that were impacted, the students and children that will never view school the same, the faculty who may feel that they can't go work their own jobs and be safe. We also give respect to those who came in and tried to stop, the police officers that were also injured, and everybody that was traumatized or affected in some way. And for all those families out there and parents out there that do have kids, I feel for you guys too as well. I may not have my own kids, but I do feel for a sense where it's just like, I don't know if I can send my kids to school without them coming back. And that is never a good feeling. So like I said, at this point, guys, we got to really come together and do something about this, because there's no way that all of us can be feeling the same hurt. And we're not talking about anything to do with racism, nothing to do with color. We're just talking about kids going to school. They are innocent parties. You know what I'm saying? The worst they do is pick their nose. You know what I'm saying? So at this point, we got to come together and band together and get something done. We want something done. Sometimes you got to put the boots on and do it yourself. Thank you guys for listening. I'm Lauren. This is Mal over here. And honestly, guys, I couldn't explain the reason behind this one, but I can definitely propose some ideas and some explanation of how we can change and see a better future.
See you guys next time.
Lauren explains it all.